Hi, thank you so much for joining us on our Parent Education Night. Hopefully this is the first of many. My name is Officer Melissa Brown, and I am the School Resource Officer, and I work for the City of St. Helena. And with me, I have Marcela Rodriguez.
My name is Marcela Rodriguez, and I work for Up Valley Family Center as a Youth Diversion Coordinator for both Calistoga and St. Helena, and thank you for joining us this evening. And with us, we also have Regina.
I'm Regina Penna. I also work for Up Valley Family Centers. I'm the program coordinator for the Up Valley Partnership for Youth for both St. Helena and Calistoga. And we're a community coalition that is focused on trying to educate and share information on alcohol and drugs and other substances and their impact on our youth, and try and create a community that is as healthy as it can be for our kids to grow up in.
Esta noche va a haber servicios de interpretación en español. Si ustedes quieren escuchar la reunión en español, pueden acceder a los servicios de interpretación yendo a la parte baja de su pantalla, haciendo clic en el icono del globo terráqueo y eligiendo el idioma español. Gracias.
So we're going to start off by talking about vaping, and Regina is going to start us off with that.
Thank you, Melissa. Good evening, everyone. I'm, as I said, I work with the Up Valley Partnership for Youth, and my part of this presentation tonight is to give you a brief overview about vaping and e-cigarettes. I know way too much about this stuff, so I am very happy at another point in time, if people want to know more about vaping in general, to do a whole presentation on vaping. But this is vaping and e-cigarettes, electronic cigarettes, are a new product, kind of a new phenomenon that's come onto the market in about the last 10 years. So if you look at kind of like the history of tobacco, we've known about tobacco for decades and decades and decades and decades. So looking at vaping and electronic cigarettes, we know just a little bit about them, but what we know so far is really not very good. And I think that the more we can talk about it and the more that we know, the better it's going to be for everyone, for our kids especially. The term vaping kind of, makes me think about a vaporizer. When I was little, my mother, if I had a chest cold, would put a vaporizer in my room with maybe some Vicks VapoRub in there to help break up the cough and the cold in my chest. But that, and so what that does is it downplays just how serious these products are. Vaping and marijuana use with these implements is on the rise, and we're finding younger and younger students who are using them. What they are, so the young woman in the slide is holding what's called a mod. The big rectangle that's in her hand is like a battery. There's a battery component that's in there. And what that does is it heats a container that has a liquid in it, a vaping liquid, e-juice, that's in there, and that's liquid nicotine, or there's marijuana, there are THC products that can go in there as well, or other drugs, and it heats it and it creates an aerosol, and that's what someone inhales. And then I've seen people in cars who they've changed it so that they can really just blow out a whole bunch of the aerosol that's in there. So it looks kind of like steam, but it's really not. It's an aerosol because it has, if you look under a microscope, it has really tiny, tiny particles in there. If you take steam and hold it up to a mirror, it'll fog up the mirror, but then it goes away. If you put one of these, the aerosol from this on a mirror, after the initial vapor goes away, there's a very sticky residue that's left on it. Some of the things that are in there are heavy metals, and they really are little pieces of metal. and they get down into the small airways in the lungs and they get lodged there. So like I said, I can tell you a whole lot more about that if you want to know about vaping, but it really isn't as innocuous as it would look with just the vapor. It's actually more aerosolized particles that are in there. Let's see if I can change the slide here. And I can't. All right. So, whoops, too far. That was me. So this slide is just a depiction of some of the products that we found here in St. Helena with our kids. So the ones that are on the left, those are like a vape pen. They come in those really pretty colors. The long part on the bottom is the battery, and there's a component in there that has like a little filter in it anyway. And the top part is the where they put the e-juice in there, and then you suck on that. There are the ones up at the top look like USB memory sticks for computers. And in fact, they charge that way. I did a presentation on these at one point, and I had a Juul, which is one of the more popular brands of these, charging on my computer. And parents didn't know what it was. They thought that I was running a USB. I was running an external memory, a little memory drive from my computer. And it's actually a vape device. The ones at the bottom are the newer ones. Those are called puff bars, and they come in a variety of flavors. They're cheap and they're disposable. They're one-shot deals. You use it and then you throw it away. But they're cheap and they're small, and kids are finding them very easy to get a hold of. Let's see. This slide here shows a lot of the different devices. In the upper corner, the girl is holding a very big chunky one that's called a mod. Those can be very, very expensive, but they all have basically the same kind of components. If you look at the other pictures, those are really tiny. There's one on the bottom that's rainbow colored and it's kind of teardrop shaped. That's called a Sorin, and it actually fits in the palm of your hand. So I've seen students walking around with them, and they have it in their hand over their mouth, and you never know that they're actually vaping on one of those devices. The one in the upper right-hand corner, that's the Juul. That's the one that looks like the USB, and it is rechargeable. The e-juice that goes along with the Juul, a lot of the devices, you see some of the little vials in the background behind the vape devices. There are over 7,000 flavors that go so far on the market for different flavorings for the e-juice. The argument has been made that they're for adults, that they want to get adults to switch the product to switch from regular combustible cigarettes to an electronic product. But the flavors have names like unicorn poop, which is actually blue raspberry, Fruity Pebs, which is like Fruity Pebbles cereal, banana split, cookie dough, cafe au lait. There are lots of different flavors that are meant to appeal to our kids. One of the more dangerous things about a vape device is that you can't control the amount of nicotine that goes into every single puff that someone takes on a vape device. With cigarettes, regular combustible cigarettes, they're engineered to have a certain amount of nicotine and a certain amount of draw power with each and every cigarette so that the consumer is having the same experience with each one. With the vape device, if you suck on it, it changes how much you're getting with each and every draw on there. There's also a tremendous amount of nicotine in these. In the Juul, there is enough nicotine in there for 40 packs of cigarettes. So we have young people, some as young as 5th grade, who their bodies they're not used to nicotine. They're nicotine naive, and they're getting just a tremendous hit of nicotine in their bodies. You can overdose on nicotine and it causes convulsions, it causes seizures. Some students have had to go to the emergency room because they're in a nicotine-induced seizure. It just is an intense amount of nicotine, and it creates what we've known from the decades of research on combustible cigarettes. Nicotine is one of the most highly addictive substances out there. One of the tobacco industry executives said a long time ago, you get somebody through a pack of cigarettes, I'll have a customer for life. It's really easy to get addicted to nicotine, and it's very difficult to quit. So here we have a product that has just an incredible amount of nicotine in it. And we have a young person who's not used to it at all. And they're getting addicted, and they're getting used to and addicted to nicotine at younger and younger ages. And it makes it incredibly hard for young people to stop. What nicotine does to a young person's brain is it changes the neural pathways, which are still growing. All of our nerves are the neural pathways, the nerves in the brain for young people. Whoops, I went too far. I'm so sorry. They are growing together until our mid-20s. So you have somebody in 5th grade, 7th grade, 9th grade, whatever, their brain is still growing. Nicotine and other substances impact how those neural pathways connect together. They're in the frontal part, so that's executive functioning, that's emotional control, it's how you reason through things. Those are the last parts that develop in a young person's brain. So nicotine and every other substance that they could potentially use, whether it's marijuana, whether it's alcohol, whether it's meth, whatever, is going to impact how those neural pathways connect to each other and how our young people's brains develop. So this can be very depressing when you think about it. How you know, all these influences are out there, but what can we do about it? So my goal and the goal of my coalition is to provide education and to help communities figure out what exactly is that they want to do about this. Because ultimately, at the local level, we as citizens have absolutely the most control over what our community looks like and what are the influences that are in there. About 15 months ago, I had a group of students at RLS Middle School. I presented about vaping at one of their wellness fairs. And I had a group of students, there were about 20 of them, who asked me if I would come and talk with them because they were very concerned about the impact of vaping in St. Helena. So we talked about what it is that they wanted to do. I met with them for several sessions, and they decided that what they wanted to do was they wanted to approach the city council and talk with the city council about banning the sale of vaping products and flavored vaping material within the city of St. Helena, which is totally within the city's ability to do. So they met with the mayor, they met with a couple members of the city council and talked to them about what they wanted to do. They met with the editorial board of the newspaper, asked if they could talk with them. And the kids did all their own research and they did their own presentation, and they were very clear in what they wanted to do. They wanted the city council to look at banning the sale of these products locally. So we had the green light to go ahead with all this, and then COVID hit, and everything got put on hold because there were so many other far more pressing emergencies, housing, you know, helping our families be able to feed their children, all of that. So this has been put on the back burner. However, it's going to go forward again. I've spoken with people from the city, and they're looking at how can they get this revitalized on the agenda. The state of California was actually looking at adopting a similar ban. However, the tobacco industry has mounted a huge backlash against a statewide ban, and they have now garnered enough signatures to end up putting this on a ballot. So whatever was supposed to happen this past January with putting the sale of vape products on hold, has been put on hold until it goes out to a voter referendum. This speaks to why it's so important at the local level for us to make sure that our community leaders know what we're concerned about and know what we want to do about it. And that includes our children, because even though they're not old enough to vote yet, they're still citizens and their voices matter. This group of students just started high school. They're still interested in moving this forward, but they were middle schoolers at the time, and they had their voices heard, and people responded, adults responded. I think we really need to pay attention to that because these products are extremely dangerous. We want to raise our kids in a very healthy, safe community. So we all need to be informed, and we need to make sure that our students are informed as well. Does anybody have any questions or comments? If you do, please let me know. At the end of this presentation, we all have slides with our contact information. You are welcome to call me. I put my cell phone on there as well. You're welcome to call me. You're welcome to email me. I will provide whatever education and support I can to our St. Helena community. And you know, you just need to ask. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Regina. Thank you. So these are some of the options that we have for support services here in the city of St. Helena. We have counseling offered at the school, counseling with myself or with Marcella, which she'll talk a bit more about later. There's a ton of resources over at the Up Valley Family Center. There's Aldea, and there's Napa County Alcohol and Drug Services. And Marcella will touch a bit on those later in the presentation. So as Regina already stated, juvenile programs are all about rehabilitation. Please do not hesitate to reach out. Our contact information is here throughout the presentation. All we want to do is help. We're not here to prosecute or anything of that nature. So last minute, I added in a couple of slides about illegal drugs. There was a 14-year-old female that recently passed away in a fentanyl overdose over in Guerneville. Her name was Yadira Mendoza Carrillo, and she was 14 years old. Unfortunately, she was located in the rear of a vehicle that was involved in a collision. She had already passed away, I believe, at the time of the collision, but it was due to what they believe is a fentanyl overdose, At least that's what was found in her system. So fentanyl is a synthetic opioid. An opioid is a painkiller. It's a lab-created painkiller that's used medically in severe cases for treating pain, such as terminal cancer. The fentanyl that we see commonly on the street is either homemade or lab-grown illegally. It's most commonly mixed with heroin, but also sometimes with cocaine to increase the euphoric effects of the drug, and it's really deadly in small doses. This photo is from a few years ago, but I just thought it had some important points in it. So it's 50 to 100 times more potent than morphine, and there was a huge increase in deaths from 2012 to 2015, and then 2014 to 2015. I didn't look up what it is at today, but it's definitely on the rise. At the time of this infograph was created, it was more commonly seen on the East Coast, and now it's almost just as commonly seen on the West Coast. So it's been prescribed less due to how addictive it is, but overdoses have risen dramatically, mostly due to the synthetic opioids that were like lab grown or homemade that I mentioned earlier. And it's not always known to the user that fentanyl is mixed with the drug that they are taking. So I just did a Google search this morning to show how, to show how common it is today. And so you can see that Yadira is mentioned. There's 3 Spokane officers that were exposed to fentanyl and sent to the hospital. There's an overdose in Burlington. There's drugs that were located that had fentanyl in the cocaine. There's another teenager that unfortunately died in Washington, and fentanyl was found in a raid, looks like in Ohio. So if you just do a quick Google search for fentanyl and then click on the news tab, there's tons of cases that are popping up. It's just becoming more and more common. So myself and other first responders, such as law enforcement, the fire department, the ambulance crew, they carry Narcan or naloxone to treat opioid overdoses. And all it is a nasal spray. So if we respond to a call and someone is unconscious or not responding, and we have reason to believe that they have used opioids, we can just take the nasal spray and insert the nozzle into their nostril, and they wake up almost immediately. And fortunately, there's little to no harm done, unless I would imagine you have an allergy, if you have not taken an opioid, so it can only help. There's even like little Narcans that are also used for canines, because the fentanyl is so lethal and so deadly that not only if you're on a call or you're searching a room or something of that nature, and you open up a container and maybe like the powder upon opening up can go into the air, or someone can grab something and then it can go in your skin. It can be absorbed transdermally, and that is enough to possibly be lethal. So we would use Narcan in that situation, and the same thing for the canine dogs. So fentanyl can be seen in a variety of different forms. So it's in pills, powder. There's the transdermal system, which is little patches that can go on your skin, and that's what's used medically to help with pain in like cancer patients or in really bad situations where people are just in a lot of pain. It can also be mixed with heroin in a liquid form. And on the bottom, I put a picture of some of the pills that were recently recovered. The pills were sold as oxycodone, but they were actually just fentanyl. So if someone had ingested that, it would have been a lethal dose. How addictive is it? I was told a story that fentanyl is so addictive that they had to change how the hospitals and hospices disposed of the fentanyl patches because people that were addicted craved it so badly that they would break into the trash cans, stick the patches in the freezer, and then use them like lollipops to get whatever was left out of the patch. It's really, really, really addictive. It's also super deadly. And in the picture, I have 30 milligrams of heroin and 3 milligrams of fentanyl. Both of those are lethal doses. Fentanyl is that much stronger, so it takes 10 times the amount of heroin to kill you than it does fentanyl. So looking at the picture and seeing that small amount, you can imagine why we take so many precautions as first responders and protecting ourselves and other people, and also our canines. Teens and adults can quickly develop an addiction. I'm sure there's people in your lives that are addicted to something, whether it's alcohol, food, gambling, social media. Our only goal, like we stated earlier, and I can't stress this enough, is to help people out when it comes to addiction, especially when it comes to vaping or drug use in teens. It's all about rehabilitation. It's not about prosecution. I can't say that enough times. So here are some warning signs of teen substance abuse. Pretty much any major change in behavior, isolating from others, damaging relationships from family and friends. So I'm not talking about your normal teen mood swings behavior. I'm talking about completely finding a new group of friends, not seeing the same people anymore, refusing to communicate with parents, making excuses, just lying, slipping in your grades, withdrawing from classroom participation. Some of these items listed can just be regular teen behavior, or it could be from COVID, it could be from mental health issues, it could be from a slew of things. But they're just some warning signs just to kind of like keep in the back of your mind if these things start to happen. It could be due to substance use. Why do people do drugs? Why do teens start to use? Why do teens start to vape? Peer pressure to fit in, to feel good and escape the pain. I know that a lot of teens have been suffering from depression during this COVID time, and a lot of adults have as well. Make sure you check on your friends, check on people, do check-ins with your kids. Make sure that everyone's doing okay and it's not just a facade that they're putting up. Some people do drugs for performance improvement, out of curiosity. I've never done it before. What does it feel like? It's only one time. It's not a big deal. And also to feel grown up, to gain some of that control and believe that they're acting more mature. Physical indicators. Like I said earlier with the warning signs, not all of these physical indicators are clearly stating that someone is under the influence. You have to look at the totality of the circumstances and look at the big picture of what's going on. But some of the physical indicators could be poor hygiene, glazed or bloodshot eyes, frequent runny nose, constantly touching the nose, paranoia, irritability, anxiety, changes in mood, difficulty staying focused, rapid weight gain or loss, small track marks on arms or legs, and wearing long sleeves even in warm weather. I would also say that wearing long sleeves even in warm weather could also be due to being self-conscious or possibly from cutting. Pupils larger or smaller than usual, cold, sweaty palms or shaking hands, sores on the mouth, headaches, puffy, swollen face, extremely tired or extremely hyperactive. So the eyes are your biggest tell. Different drug categories can have different effects on the user's pupils. And I will say that this is the biggest tell that I use when I'm doing a traffic stop or contacting someone and I suspect that they're under the influence. The first thing I will do is look at their eyes. I'll show you that here on the next slide. So these are some of the effects that different drugs have on people's pupils. This is consistent across the board. Doesn't matter if you're young, old, still going to happen. It might look a little bit different if you're talking about a drug combination. So if someone has been using marijuana and drinking alcohol, or drinking alcohol and taking a Xanax, you're not going to see one or the other. It's going to be somewhere in between. So with opiates, painkillers, fentanyl, you're going to see really tiny pinpoint pupils. And if you look at the person's eyes that you suspect to be under the influence, and then look at someone else's eyes that you know not to be under the influence, that's how you can kind of gauge. Because depending on the light situation that you're in, whether it's overhead light or sunlight, or you're in the shade, or it's dark out, or you're inside your house, all those light conditions will also affect the size of your pupils. So make sure that you have a control of something to compare it to. So pinpoint pupils is for painkillers, marijuana, and marijuana, amphetamines, and benzodiazepines cause dilated pupils. A good portion of them cause red, watery eyes. So marijuana and alcohol is usually red, watery eyes. And the glossy eyes, where it's not red, it's just kind of watery and glossed over, would be benzodiazepines and amphetamines. Benzodiazepines are like Xanax, Valium, Klonopin. Amphetamines are uppers, so Adderall, meth, cocaine, Molly, LSD, and then we have alcohol, and I already went over opiates. So keep an eye out for watery eyes, bloodshot eyes, pupils that are constricted or dilated, and drooping eyelids. Watery, bloodshot eyes could be due to allergies, could be due to having something in your eye, poking your eye, hitting your eye. Pupils are going to be the biggest tell, and you can look it up on Google, look it up on YouTube. It's really obvious once you know what you're looking for to see the effects that drugs have on people's pupils.
All right, so now I'm going to go over the youth diversion program that we have in partnership with Up Valley Family Center and both St. Helena and Calistoga Police Departments. So what is diversion? Diversion is a pre-court juvenile justice measure. It's an alternative to the youth being processed into the juvenile court and probation system. So, and every contract is tailored to each case. By successfully completing the contract, it means that the case does not get processed and will not be placed on the juvenile's record. Types of offenses that qualify for diversion would be misdemeanors and incidents. The referral process consists of the juvenile coming into contact with a police officer, and it's up to the police officer's discretion to refer the juvenile to the diversion program. The initial meeting with parents is set, and the minor is set to discuss the specifics of the case, as well as develop and sign a contract that will be upheld in order to complete the program. Each contract is tailored to the student's needs, and both the parent and juvenile are responsible for the different aspects on the contract. Some collaborations and partnerships that within the diversion program are the Up Valley Partnership for Youth Coalition that Regina spoke about earlier, as well as the SARB, the Student Assistance Review Board. We also do referrals and with other partnerships such as Mentis. They provide professional bilingual mental health therapy for individuals ages 10 and up, couples and families. We also have a partnership with the California Highway Patrol. CHP does a Start Smart class that we are in the works of bringing to the district in St. Helena as well. And we try to do helmet distributions. We also partner with LGBTQ Connection. It's they have inclusive youth gatherings, school and club supports, LGBTQ friendly counseling, youth leadership team and projects, as well as coming out and family support. News is also a great partnership that we work quite often with. Their domestic violence and sexual abuse services, as well as providing healthy coaching programs that provide support and tools to improve relationships with their peers, families, and dating, as well as Aldea. So Aldea, with their referrals, they do behavioral health services as well as like substance abuse prevention groups and program and treatment. As part of the diversion contract, students are also responsible for getting community service hours completed. Some areas where within St. Helena that we do community service with are with the Boys and Girls Club, the Teen Center, through the Up Valley Family Center events. We've helped Public Works in the city of St. Helena with some graffiti cleanup, as well as with the Dream It Be It as part of the Seroptimist, and community-led events, Silverado Orchards Retirement Apartments, and the Rionda House. Some common offenses that we've seen over time with the diversion program are both, again, misdemeanors and incidents. So driving without a license, injury, traffic collisions, vandalism, trespassing, being in the possession or use of under the influence of a controlled substance or intoxicated, threatened crime with intent to terrorize, petty theft, and fights in a public place.
So this slide says, should you spy on your kids? And I was hoping to have a discussion about that, but we can talk maybe a little bit at the end. My computer's a little bit delayed. There we go. So you have the right as a parent, guardian, owner of the home, step parent, grandparent that's raising their child, their grandchild. You have the right to check your child's phone, room, clothing, computer, tablet, anything that's inside of your house. The #1 goal is to keep your children safe. Unfortunately, technology today allows so many people, whether they're older, younger, our age, your age, that allows people to be a victim of a crime or have long-lasting exposure. And what I mean by long-lasting exposure is taking pictures, either taking nude selfies and sending them out or posting them, or maybe taking pictures that would be questionable later and possibly affect like a college application or getting a job or things like that. Ask your kids to show you their phones and look through them together. And I've heard a lot of really great things about Life 360. I don't personally have it. I know a bunch of people that do, but it's a great sharing device that you can have your kids put on their phone, and then you have it on your phone, and it allows you to like check in on them, check on their location, set up times to do things, make sure that they're okay, and things like that. And then pictured, I have a bunch of social media apps. So starting off with TikTok, and then Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. All of those things are for another day, kind of a rabbit hole that you can get into. I didn't even start with Reddit or the darknet or Discord. It's been the latest big one. But if anytime you have questions and you want to know about these apps, your kids would probably be a really good start. And if they're not willing to talk to you, you can always ask me or Marcella, or maybe like a niece or nephew that you have that's a little bit older that's willing to talk to you. But it's really good to familiarize yourself with these apps, how they work. Almost all of them allow communication for you to be talking to people that maybe you do know or you don't know. And it's just good to keep an eye on that to make sure that your kids are safe. So we wanted to take a little time to see if anybody had any questions. I know that we touched on a lot of different topics and just covered them briefly. We just wanted to start off with a general parent night and talk about social media, parent rights, drugs, and vaping, and diversion and services that are available in the city of St. Helena. We weren't sure if anybody had any questions, but we are also available to be contacted by our contact information that's on the next screen.